a video on how to ruin a steak again. So I've done this video before and I made a right mess of it. I thought what I'd do is I'd slow cook a steak in the oven, and I had the oven on too high, far too high, and it just overcooked it like you wouldn't believe. So I bought too much sirloin for a function. So I kind of thought to myself, oh, what we'll do is we'll have a bit of that for myself, and we'll try this steak thing again. So I've actually done some research this time. I don't normally do too much research. I just generally kind of jump straight into it. We need to be about 60 degrees. Well, no, about 57 degrees to get a medium rare steak. So we'll be cooking this in the oven. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to kind of brine it, but I'm going to season it beforehand and get it up to room temperature, and then we're going to cook it in the oven just like that, and then we're going to reverse sear it, so we will sear it afterwards. So I was kind of thinking, if we cook it to 50 in the oven, depending on how good the thermostat is in the oven, and then we fry it in a pan afterwards, that'll probably bring it up to about the right kind of, I'm just doing something at the back of the stove as well at the same time. It'll probably get it to about the right kind of temperature for medium rare. These are my thoughts. My only concern is that we kind of like crispy fat, don't we, on steak and things like that. That's the only kind of downside. So we'll kind of see how this goes. So out of the oven out of the fridge for about half an hour, because I've left it a little bit too late. Seasoned it. What will happen is the salt will get into the steak, and some of the moisture will kind of come out, but it's a bit like brining, so it should make the steak juicier for that. And we'll, because of the cooking process, hopefully it will season it kind of all the way through, because it's at a lower temperature and all that kind of stuff. So then we'll just cook it in the oven. This is just more of me doing a faff more than anything else, rather than an instructional video. But anyway, so let that come to room temperature. We'll bang it in the oven at 50 degrees, and we'll kind of see what happens. Although we're doing other things in the oven at the same time, so we might put that on something that's already cooking in the oven. So I'm rendering a bit of duck fat and skin down at the same time, so we might put that on top of there to save a bit of oven space. But we'll see. Oh, that's a problem. Yeah, that's a problem. So the oven's at 125 degrees already, and there's a big cast iron pot in the oven. So I might have to turn this down to 50 degrees. If I put it in the oven, if I turn the oven down and then put that steak in, the oven's going to be hotter than 50 degrees, because the cast iron pot will act as another heating element in the oven. So if I turn this down to 50 degrees now, the temperature in the oven should get down to more of a 50 degrees, and then, yeah, I know what I'm talking about. I'm not talking rubbish. Yeah, so it'll get half an hour, and the oven should have cooled down a little bit. So do we know what temperature the oven is at? Okay, so the oven's at the moment, the oven's up at 125 degrees. So you can tell there's the thermostat light on the oven, and if you adjust the temperature, turn it around, you can tell exactly when the light goes off. You can tell when it's up to temperature. So when the light goes on, that's where the temperature is. So it's about at 120 at the moment, so we don't want it at 120. Let's knock it down to 50, and then when I put this in the oven, I'll be able to faff around with the gauge and kind of see where we are at the oven temperature. Hopefully we might just have to pull the cast iron pot out to work. But anyway, as you can see already, some moisture is kind of coming out of the steak, and that means the salt's getting in. But anyway, I'm waffling, aren't I, already? Well, already. That's all I ever do. It has had an hour and a half at 50 degrees in the oven. Let's have a look at it. Oh, okay. So it's developed like a bit of a crust on the outside, and it's still pink. I don't think I've got a temperature probe, you know. That's not very good, is it? As a chef, I think I should have a we have got this. So, got one of these. They're not particularly accurate. Accurate? That's not a word. Accurate. There we go. Say it quicker. What's the temperature on the inside? It'll give us an ish kind of reading, won't it? And 30. We'll wait until it gets up to temperature. We'll pause. I don't think that's going to get above 30. I don't think that's going to get above 30. So, let's have a look underneath. I'm not going to cut into it. So it's done that underneath. What are we going to do with it? Let's stick it in a pan. Let's stick it in a pan, fry it, and see what happens. Right, so pan's hot, no fat in it. We're going to put that edge down there, and then we're going to give that a crisping up. So, well, the fatty edge. We're going to give that a crisp up, and then hopefully there'll be enough fat that comes out of that. I'll keep it upright. So we'll reverse, so we'll render some fat out of that edge, and then that fat we'll use to caramelise the rest of it. You can't really see, can you, because it's a black pan and a dark steak, but that's what we're doing. Right, I have seared it. That looks alright, doesn't it? So, we'll just give it a minute or two, just to give it a little bit of a rest, and then we'll cut into it and we'll see. Right, let's cut into this steak. So, let's have a look at what we can do is kind of look at this bit here. It's hanging off. This isn't going to be medium at all. This isn't going to be medium at all. That's the other side of medium rare, is that? I can only think, oh no. Oh, that's not bad actually, that's not bad. That's a nice bit of meat. So, how are we going to go into the centre? Yes, we are. Let's have a see what it looks like. It's going to be really rare in the middle. Oh, okay. So, a little bit too, might needed more cooking, but I don't know about this reverse searing type of thing. I suppose that's too rare for me. But I think if you had an oven that was more accurate, I don't think a domestic oven is very particularly accurate when it comes to temperature. I think it might say 50, but it's probably more like it's 45, or even slightly bit less, or slightly bit higher. But I don't know. Maybe it's something we will revisit this in the future. I'm not going to waste it. I'm certainly going to eat it. But just it's the other side of rare, is that? For me, it's kind of like in between blue and rare for me. I prefer it a bit more like that. So maybe it should. But if we're going to fry it in the frying pan anyway, what's the point in putting it in the oven to get it up to 50 degrees? You know, you might as well just cook it in the frying pan anyway. But anyway, maybe it was just a bit of a fad. And I don't want to faff around with water baths. But anyway, it's not a ruined steak. It's just kind of me faffing around, isn't it? Anyway, so that's what I'm having for my tea. What are you having for yours?